Good morning, Gamecock fans. Today is Tuesday, September 2nd, the year of our Lord 2025, and you are listening to Coffee with JC Shurburtt. Thanks for joining me today. Back from Atlanta, back from the opener. Gamecocks win 24-11. Look, season opening wins on neutral sites against Power 4 teams. You just take the win and go for it. Any other, marquee opener around the country that you see, you just want to take the win and go for it. A lot of new on the field for both teams. The coaching staff talked about how difficult it was to prepare. I don't know. Virginia Tech at times probably did some things to keep the Gamecocks off balance a little bit. I think some of it was that. Some of it was just personnel in different spots making mistakes. As far as why the Hokies gave the Gamecocks trouble through the middle two quarters of the football game. Kamari Copeland, in particular, on the defensive line, South Carolina really struggled to block him. He's a good player. Looks like he's taking a step forward this year for them. But that left guard spot, man, Rodney Newsom starting surprised me. I thought I was told Nick Sharp was working over there, but he was replaced by Marquis Anderson. Marquis solidified things a little bit. And then, sure enough, on that really great run Lenoris had on to get the first down with about 4 minutes left, where he scrambled out and did I call it the Gumby move. I think I'm going to settle on Gumby move, but it's when he kind of, or it's maybe like a possum move because he pretends almost like he's going down, and then he bounces back out. I haven't seen that a whole lot in college football with various quarterbacks through the years. That's something that is very unique to Lenoris. But he got out of there, shook a guy off, got the first down. Gamecocks didn't have to give the ball back, won the football game. But on that play, Marquis just let his guy go. I mean, everybody else had it blocked right there, right up the chute. So a lot of work to do on the offensive line as far as solidifying that position. Shed Surratt I alluded to this on the tailgate show, but unfortunately, working with the bigspur.com, I failed to look and see if they had reported anything. I didn't want to put those guys in a bad spot and have a lot of questions on the message board because I have a policy this year. No tweeting during the game, no message board posts during the game day. Just not going to do it. Not going to get in. I'm going to let you guys and gals out there enjoy it and enjoy the banter amongst yourselves. And you can obviously hear from me later. But, so I kind of mentioned it on the tailgate show, and then I don't know. So I didn't know for sure. I was pretty sure, but he was in concussion protocol, which is good because you eventually get out of concussion protocol and you're good to go. But I hate to say they missed a true freshman offensive lineman. That's surprising, but it seems like they did because that was problematic. Josiah Thompson on the left side at left tackle did not play super duper out there either, just in the whole scheme of the day. There was a safety. That was weird because sometimes weird things happen in openers. Sometimes weird things happen in Gamecock football. And, Fred Johnson gets the pick. Everybody's happy. He brings it out of the two. It's hard for me he shouldn't do that, right? You're coached not to do that. But just take, down the ball in the end zone, take the 20 yards. With where he caught it, though, and his forward momentum, I'm not sure, because what you don't want to do is go out and then back, and then that's a safety. So they gave up a safety. That, I think, hurt the Gamecocks momentum-wise and gave Virginia Tech some life. And then the drive toward the end of the half where Carolina got the field goal, or in the second quarter, they got the field goal 10-5. I think it was the second quarter. And then the touchdown that was called back, I don't, a lot of people are asking, what's a catch these days? I don't know. Sometimes these guys, these refs get together and they start to emphasize something by the letter of the law or the letter of the rule. And man, I don't know that college football referees and replay officials need to start becoming sticklers on things that will take touchdowns off the board where, for years it's a catch and now it's not. I mean, it wasn't just in the Carolina game either, the Clemson game. LSU had one called back. It was just, it was amazing. I literally was like, why, And I think the part of it is you got to secure the ball to the ground. But I mean, the quarterback makes a good throw, the receiver makes a heck of a catch, the defender's beat. Are you're really going to give the whole play to the defender based on him coming in at the end after the guy's gotten both feet down and punching at the ball? I mean, running backs when they get in the end zone, if they're in, even if they lose the ball, as long as they've crossed the point, it's a touchdown. So I don't. It baffles me that sometimes folks that run college football decide to, you know, get into like the specifics and they do things to hurt the game. That's going to hurt the game if we have all these touchdowns called back. It's just bottom line. Fans shouldn't put up with it. Coaches shouldn't put up with it. Players shouldn't put up with it. There's my rant on that. But that was a big momentum play. That makes it 13-5 at least. Maybe Shane Beamer goes for two in that situation to get a 10-point lead. Maybe not, because if they miss, it's an 8-point lead. You're a touchdown and 2 point away from tying it. But it'd be 14-5, and that's a weird score. But you're up 9 at the half. Instead, you're up uh, 5 in the third quarter. It got a little hairy. 10-8. Bakari Swain with the punt return for a touchdown got that going. I got the momentum back for Carolina. Virginia Tech hits a booming field goal. Funny enough, both kickers in the game were from Spartanburg High School. How about that? Because William Joyce apparently won the kicking battle there at the end of camp. He's a big kid, 6'3", 215, pretty strong leg. Battled Alex Herrera for the job last year. So they went with Joyce. Nothing bad happened. All his extra points, 27-yard field goal. But the other kid from Virginia Tech from Spartanburg, too, he had a 56-yarder. Wow. Unbelievable. And that made it 27 or 17-11. And then Nick Harbor, and I mean, kind of the play of the day, diamond formation in the backfield, and they go deep post to Nick. Beat his man one-on-one, touchdown for him. Like that for him after getting a touchdown taken off the board earlier. And basically wide receiver, and we'll kind of start there with positions. It was the Nick Harbor show. Donovan Murph had one catch, and that was it. I don't know where Jared Brown was, what happened to him. Mazio Bennett, quiet day. Brian Rowe, all those receivers were kind of quiet. I don't know that it was on them so much as maybe Carolina looked like in the second and third quarter they were trying to force the issue with the run game a little bit, which wasn't working very well. But Oscar Attaway broke out a couple, and Faison had the one long run, which was just all, well blocked and just guts and refusal to go down. I think that showed you what Rasul Faison's all about. He hadn't had much room. He got room and almost got a first down on a 30-something yard run. So congratulations to him and making his Gamecock debut. Ran with a lot of fire. Attaway got twice as many carries as Rasul with 14. They scraped out 100 yards on 21 carries. That's it's good that they weren't below 100. But I do think, South Carolina's got work to do in the run blocking department. That frustrates me that you can't run block better than that. And it frustrated me last year when they couldn't. Although I do want to give credit to Kamari Copeland and the Virginia Tech defensive line tackle, especially. I thought they were very disruptive and good. But Carolina's going to play just as good or better as the season goes on. So that interior of the line has to get better. The run game in general has to get better. I think with the receivers, Sellers only 19 attempts, and they did give up some pressure as well. So he was kind of running for his life. But back to the offensive line specifically, they're losing. They lost Seth Shedrick Surratt. Like I said, the Newsome starts, Marquis comes in. So that's kind of chaotic. And like I've said before, on the offensive line, sometimes it's just one guy. And it was most of the time one guy. The other guys had everything blocked. One guy gets beat. Boom. That's it. But that's got to get better, folks. There's really no, there's very little tolerance out there for the Gamecocks to struggle up front this season. None. And so it's got to get better. That's just the bottom line. It's an opener. There's 11 more on the schedule starting this Saturday. I think the SC State game's coming at a good time. especially if Surratt's back as a true freshman. You get out there and get your feet wet. I think that's good. The tight ends, like I said, played pretty well. Brady Hunt showed some things that maybe he didn't show last year as far as explosiveness. Led the team in receptions with 4. They were hitting that little out pattern early really well. First play of the game to Maurice Brown. A very creative, good first drive. And then after that, it seemed like offensive coordinator Mike Shula wanted to, like I said, force the issue with the run game a little bit. Went back to it sometimes out in the flat. I mean, you can't just sit there and throw it out into the flat over and over. But that first drive was outstanding. I mean, they knew they had Virginia Tech kind of way off balance with that stuff. I'd like to see more of that, in different ways, especially with the lead blocker, the 2 backs in the backfield. I think that's kind of a staple of what Mike Shula likes to do. And so there we have it. So offense, kind of a mixed bag. I mean, you score 17 basically because, one of your touchdowns was on special teams. I would hope there would be games that would have more than that. But again, it's an opener. And, I go back sometimes during the off season and watch openers, and it's like, why am I watching? It's a completely different team, with different play. I mean, different plays, different players. That's just how it goes in college football. And I think that's another reason why myself, Shane Beamer, a lot of other people would like to see some exhibition games. If you're going to have these big time openers that you hype all year and everybody's ready, the teams just aren't playing very well. I mean, look at Texas against Ohio State. By the way, I have to apologize to some of you. I think, I don't know if it was here, JC and Morgan, and I'll just throw myself on the sword here. The Chris Ash and Ohio State defensive coordinator thing I've been saying over and over again. I don't know why. What was wrong with me? I need to get my facts right. Right? So Matt Patricia is their defensive coordinator. Chris Ash went to Notre Dame, so I got that all confused. Duh. And Matt Patricia in the NFL is a heck of a defensive coordinator, and so maybe I was wrong to underestimate their defense at Ohio State. They did lose a lot of players, but 14-7, Arch Manning and all that. Texas kind of licking its wounds. Arch just did not look all that great on Saturday. It was a struggle at Clemson with LSU, 17-10. Clemson could not run the football against LSU. And that was something that kind of, it was interesting. Yeah, I thought, Notre Dame lost to Miami. So Carolina should move into the top 10 when the AP poll is released. They may be 10th or so. But, it wasn't a remarkable win over Virginia Tech, but it was a win, and it was a game where, I don't know that anybody in the stadium, and most of the stadium was Carolina people. Virginia Tech had a decent crowd, but the Gamecocks traveled pretty well. Better than the Hokies. Talking to some of their fans, they're kind of a different place. They don't know about Brent Pry. They, had a struggle year last year. Expectations are not nearly as high there as they are at South Carolina. So it made sense. Plus, it's further away. Most of their alums they don't live in Blacksburg. They live, DC or other parts of Virginia. But they had a good group there. I mean, walking into the stadium, there's a lot of orange, and it's just, they didn't sell their tickets like the Gamecocks did. So it kind of was a home game for Carolina. And the crowd was into it and fired up and ready to go. And did want to say this, being at the game, Mercedes-Benz Stadium, first class experience for all of us that were there. Myself, Mad Dog, and our wives sat together. And for those of you I ran into and shook your hand or said hello, it's always great to see you guys out there in the wild, so to speak. That's really doing this. That's probably the most gratifying part of this job, is getting out there and meeting people that listen or that read. Not that I'm some attention hound, because most of the time I just kind of like to be left alone, to be honest, at places and stuff. Not that. Let me back up there. If I'm out someplace with my wife or something like with her in a football game, Gamecock game, heck, bring it on. The more people I meet, the better. But it's nice to just see human beings, and explaining to my wife, it's like the Gamecocks, it's like one big family. So it's like a family reunion. So you're like seeing members of your family, even though I don't know your name. But anyway, thank you for coming up and saying hello. Please continue to do that if you want. I'm always glad to meet people that are listeners and all that good stuff. And it was pretty awesome. A lot of young folks too, so that makes my old butt believe that maybe I can do this for a while longer, right? Since I've got a young audience. But certainly thankful and grateful that there are folks out there that listen to Coffee and the show and they're on thebigspur.com. It's why we do it. It's why we do it. So thanks to all of you. So what needs to happen moving forward on offense? I'd like to see them open it up a little more. I thought that they would after the first drive, and then they kind of went into the shell. I think in college football, all of the great play calling and stuff on the first drive, you kind of gotta continue that. And that's not a criticism of Mike Shula. I think in an opener, maybe sometimes you're just trying not to mess it up. You're very limited in what you want to do. I get it. But Lenore Sellers is too good of a passer, and you got good receivers and good tight ends. And, if you got a pass to set up the run, so be it, in my opinion. And when that guy drops back to pass, sometimes good things can happen in the run game as well. But by the way, beautiful designed quarterback run on the first touchdown of the game. They were completely off balance with that in the first. But I'd like to see that. And guys, gals, they got to block. I mean, you got to block. You can't have these issues. You can't let Kamari Copeland go crazy, because there's going to be better. I promise. That's just got to get fixed, man. I don't know what the deal is, but that's got to get fixed. And there were times they played well, but there were times vast swaths of the game they didn't. So, and I'm not going to sit here and get into coaching after the first game. But I'm not going to sit here and defend the coaching either, because obviously something's askew with what we saw Sunday, which is a lot of what we saw the previous year. So it's got to get fixed. That's the good news, is things can get fixed in this wonderful game we all love. Defense couldn't be happier. I mean, of the rumors of the Gamecocks defense being not good were greatly exaggerated. I think I wrote that exact thing on the Big Spur this morning. A fast unit. This is a different type of defense, it looks like, than last year's. But they looked fast. They looked incredibly skilled at certain spots. I told all of you and said on the show that I need to stop hyping Fred Johnson, because I was worried that I was just going to look like a complete clown. And I talk sometimes about, like, there's a difference between hyped and just when I mention somebody or an analysis. I'll freely admit I hyped Fred Johnson. I did before the game too, so I'm not like front runnering or waving the banner "Oh Shurburtt" here. Fantastic. I mean, he was even better than I thought he would be. He's a fantastic linebacker, and the interception, great. He got back there in coverage, sprinted back there in coverage, totally belt, and was right there, snagged the ball. Got to down it if you're in the end zone, Fred, but that's okay. There was one play over toward where I was sitting where drones went around the side. I guess when he would be facing, like, running toward the Carolina side of the stadium. And here comes Fred Johnson, and boom, only a 2-yard gain. Sure tackle, got over there. That's what linebackers have to do, man, sideline to sideline. And boy, he did it. He did it fantastically. And he's going to have a really big year. He's a really good player, playing his home state school, Virginia Tech, and the school that was number two in his recruitment. Shane Beamer said after the game he was very fired up. But that's the storyline of the defense is no touchdowns allowed, obviously. Dylan Stewart, get to him in a second. I played very, very well. But if you're looking for like an emerging player out of that and somebody whose name everybody should know, it's Fred Johnson. I thought the defensive tackles held up well. Nick Barrett, in particular, I noticed out there doing some nice things quickly. Virginia Tech couldn't run it all that well. I mean, Marcellus, Hawkins, the kid from Central Missouri was actually pretty good. 15 carries, I think 58 yards. Got hit some here and there, but for the most part, the run defense held up, held drones in check. I don't know if Virginia Tech's going to win a bunch of games this year throwing it 35 times, but it just shows you in an opener you don't know, because we sat here and talked about the secondary and talked about the pass defense, and if you can get to passing downs, things are going to be good. Well, lo and behold, they threw it 35 times, and most of their big plays came via the air, and some of those were just that Donovan Green and Aiden Green made great plays, and they dropped a few too. Just to be honest, Virginia Tech dropped a few too. The secondary, of course, lost Judge Collier earlier to an injury. It doesn't look good, but you just hope for the best with him. And that's it's a good thing that they signed Brandon Cisse, who was outstanding out of the portal, and that they also got Miles Norwood there, and you still have DeMarcus Leach, true freshman from Abbeville, played a little bit. So that's why you want depth. Injuries are part of the game, and if Judge is out, I hate it for him because he was really going to have a good year. But we'll see kind of how it all plays out. But I think they'll be okay. Vakari Swain, I didn't mention him. Obviously, we were going to mention him when we got to special teams, so he'd slide into the starting spot, I would assume, with Cisse. And then you just kind of go from there. But certainly disappointed that he missed the game and hurt himself or something. But Beamer said it was a knee. It's never good when it's a knee, right? So we'll see kind of how it all plays out in the secondary. Safeties held up pretty well. I thought Peyton Williams with a big interception. It's going to help his confidence. I saw him playing very fast, flying around. Pretty good game there. This a friend of mine told me, I think a couple of weeks ago, man, Carolina's has a bend but don't break type of defense this year, and that played out. I mean, there was some bending, of course, but they never broke. And 9 points against that bunch that they clearly have pretty good receivers, and clearly their backs are capable. And Drones is a good athlete, and he can hurt you if he's on. He was inaccurate at times, but did complete some. He's got a good arm. You take that. You take it, especially with a defense that's supposed to be rebuilding, right? Supposed to be, they lost too much on defense. Maybe that turns out to be the case too, because like I said, it's an opener, but a good performance by the Carolina defense. Justin Okoronkwo, Justin O, J-O, as Todd said, or Joe O, I think is what Todd called him during the game. I thought he was fantastic when he was in. Flashed, as they say. Fast player, 6'3", 230, long, big. Clayton White and the defensive staff, when he hit the portal, because the Gamecocks tried to get him out of high school and he went to Alabama. When he got in the portal, it was like silence. Don't we need to get him, and they got him in, and they got him in quick, and nobody else kind of knew he was out there. That guy can play. I mean, I was fired up about his performance. I thought, he's behind Sean Murphy, but I thought he played a lot better than Murphy. Just to be frank, it's one game, so I don't know if they move him in and out, but I think he will probably play more and more and more. And it probably ends up being a lot like Demetrius Knight and Bam Martin Scott last year. Bam Martin Scott started a lot of the games. They only play two linebackers, but Demetrius Knight was in there and all over the place. And that's kind of what he reminded me of. And man, you start talking about a guy like that and a guy like Fred Johnson at linebacker. Perhaps my prediction that the linebackers will be better this year as a whole will come true. Maybe not, but who knows? Special teams fired up about the special teams because I think the punt block slash return unit, they've got something there because not only did Vicari get sprung for the touchdown, and I think too, look, I love Jalen Kilgore, and I think he's a capable punt returner just like everybody else. And he did return one or drop back for one after Vicari muffed the ball. But man, I think you got a weapon in Vicari Swain, just like Beamer said. There's a reason everybody loved him at receiver and DB coming out. Man, I hope to see that. Now he's sliding into most likely a starting corner role, so I don't know how that's going to impact things. But I don't know that that'll be the last time we get a big return from Vicari Swain this year if he continues back there. People probably try to start punting it out of bounds or something. But also on that unit, they were close to getting it to blocking a kick 2 or 3 times. So Beamer ball is back, folks, as far as that goes. So very exciting as far as special teams go to think about that unit because that block punts can just change momentum. So can punt returns for a touchdown. Vicari just did it all effort, man. I mean, I said they sprung him, and they did. He had to get blocking, but he followed his blocks. And then at the end, did the 360 and into the end zone. It's a fantastic punt return. One of the best since Ace Sanders back in the day when that 2012 season, I think. We've had some kickoff returns around here, because Debo Samuel played at the University of South Carolina, but punt returns, it's been a while, so I think that was fantastic and absolutely gave Carolina the momentum they sought throughout the game. The defensive end opposite Dylan Stewart, we'll talk about Stewart again, as promised. JT Gear had a nice play where he tracked down drones from behind. Brian Thomas got some pressure from time to time. They didn't really go out and run it over the side like I was worried about. Nothing I was really worried about played a factor in the game, which shows it's preseason. But I thought that JT showed some nice closing speed on that play. And if they can get him going and get him back to where he was back at Syracuse, making plays in games, I think they're going to be fine over there. And they got to start, they got to make people pay for focusing on Dylan Stewart, which, the Hokies did. And there's already photographic evidence of one play where I think it was Garrett for them, had his arms wrapped around Dylan Stewart's head and fistful of jersey when Dylan's trying to get to the quarterback. It's unbelievable. They just need to, if you call that, like instead of sitting there trying to be nitpicky in the replay booth on touchdowns, why don't you just call holding? This kid is getting held every single time. You call it 2 or 3 times, they're going to stop. Right? But, and then there's the old adage, we call holding on every play. Yeah, but when it's egregious like that, man, you've got to just put your foot, if you're worth a slop as an official, you got to do that. But very frustrating to see photographic evidence of that already. And it happened a lot during the game, but he still powered through. And like Beamer said, last year's Dylan Stewart probably gotten frustrated. True freshman, right? This year's Dylan Stewart kept right on playing, finally got home on a sack, made a lot of good plays in the run game. He's taken a step forward, right? I mean, you'd hope that they start calling some of these holding penalties, and that you hope that forces the other team to stop. Well, just hold him. They're not going to call it, or whatever they're trying to, mug him out there, right? But that's going to happen. We'll see how Carolina counters and adjusts and accounts for that. But I thought he was a warrior out there. I mean, that's got to be tough and frustrating when you have another, the other team's not really even playing by the rules, right? And doing whatever they can to slow you down. On the interception to Fred Johnson, Dylan got after. I mean, Drone's a hard guy to sack. I mean, you're not going to necessarily track him down. He's good, mobile in the pocket, all that good stuff. But Dylan got pressure on it. and he had to roll out and fired it down there into traffic, and Fred picked it off. Mason Love, shout out to Lance, Latte Lance, hung out with him and Kreger, fans of the show this weekend. The leg of destiny, Mason Love, 47.8 yards per kick. Had the benefit of some rolls, some very gratuitous bounces, but that's part of punting too. I don't really know how you plan on, I'm going to kick it down here and then it's going to roll toward the end zone. But he had a good day, flipped the field quite well. Hokies had an advantage in their special teams kicking department, I thought, coming into the game. And obviously 3 field goals, including a 56-yarder. Yeah, you can't argue with that. But all in all, it's a good win. I think the South Carolina State game, it's a huge game for South Carolina State anytime they come and play the University of South Carolina in Columbia. The Marching 101 will be there. It's good that you play these games. They had a big win over Wofford, 16-15 to open the season. I think they've got a fantastic coach. They're going to come in here and play hard against the Gamecocks, but it is a game. It's why you schedule these games against FCS opponents, is to kind of get, hopefully you go in and take care of business and blow them out, and everybody gets to play. Running back wise, I was surprised Isaiah Gustav and Matthew Fuller didn't get many opportunities in the football game. Attaway 14 for 60. Attaway did about like what he does. That was kind of like what he does. I thought Faison obviously has more explosiveness and a little more dynamic out there, but I'd like to see some other backs. And I think we will against South Carolina State. I think that's kind of, like I said, why you play these games. So, you go in, it's as Phil likes to call it, it's a get right game. Work on some things, improve, because Vanderbilt's coming to town. Curious to see what Vandy does at Virginia Tech. It's going to be an interesting football game, because I think, looked to me like the Hokies were just a little faster than I thought they'd be. They certainly played hard. And it's a night game at Lane Stadium, so we'll see what happens. If you're the Gamecocks, I think, heading into Vandy, you almost hope Vandy goes out up there and beats them pretty good, because you don't want to get overconfident. Like if Virginia Tech beats Vanderbilt, that's a big win. Everybody's going to think, oh, well, you're going to compare scores. Never compare scores, especially a team like Vandy, where it's ball control, this, that, and the other. And you can get caught in the swamps of sadness pretty quickly against those guys, my friends out there. All right, folks, great talk about the game today. Obviously had a big time in Atlanta. Hope you had a happy Labor Day. We'll be back with the show starting at noon, 12 to 2. It's Terrible Tuesday. So Nano Sports Chat Boxers will be in asking questions. We will review the game, start talking a little about SC State, talk about a little about college football all around the country. And JB is going to have Preston Thorne, Mike Morgan in today. I'll be along here in about 30 minutes from now. I don't think the video will be up by then, with JC and Morgan to talk general college football for an hour and some change with my man Mike Morgan. Our 10th season of doing JC and Morgan. Download the Chief Sports app for all that. Please hit like and subscribe on this YouTube channel if that's where you're listening. If you're on podcast, hit that 5-star rating. I'm JC Shurburtt with coffee. Have a great Tuesday, everybody. Holla at you.
JC and Mad Dog Bully on the Gamecock Show.